Staff Sergeant Ava Monroe crouched at the edge of hostile ground deep in the Valverde jungle, peering through binoculars as 4 armed cartel gunmen dragged her best friend, Sergeant Riley Grant, blood streaking from a head wound, wrists zip-tied behind her back, into a fortified compound 300 meters away. The counter-narcotics mission had collapsed spectacularly. Their unit had been ambushed, the patrol scattered, and Riley was left behind. When command ordered withdrawal, they told her to stand by. Intel claimed a rescue team would deploy in 48 hours. Riley didn't have 48 hours. The cartel's record was clear. They executed captured soldiers within a day and posted the footage online. So Ava made a choice that could either save Riley's life or cost both of them theirs. She checked her M4, locked in 6 spare mags, pulled on her plate carrier despite the suffocating heat, and did what every field manual called suicide. She went in solo. Midday sun, no support, no backup, only her rifle and 12 years of loyalty that outweighed every order. Drop a comment and hit subscribe, because what unfolded in the next 6 hours would become a classified legend about how far one soldier will go when someone she loves is trapped behind enemy lines. The Valverde jungle was a living nightmare built to kill you in 100 ways. The air was so thick it felt drinkable, every breath a struggle and every step a test of endurance. The temperature clung near 95 even under the triple canopy, sunlight slicing through in golden shafts that lit up clouds of biting insects. Within minutes, Ava's uniform was soaked, sweat stinging her eyes and slicking her grip. Mosquitoes swarmed in waves, carrying sicknesses that could flatten you. The jungle floor was a twisted mess of roots and vines, hiding rot and snakes. Above, howler monkeys screamed their challenges through the trees. Birds cried out in alien calls, and the endless hum of insects became a living wall of noise that could conceal your movement or expose you, depending on how you used it. Staff Sergeant Ava Monroe hadn't slept in 30 hours. The adrenaline that pushed her through the ambush was fading, but she refused to stop, not while Riley was breathing somewhere in that compound. Ava was 31, a career soldier with 12 years in the infantry before women were officially cleared for combat. She'd been among the few who kicked that door open through grit and skill. Average height, athletic from hauling 70 pounds of gear every day. Her dark blonde hair was twisted into a tight bun under a sweat-darkened helmet. Gray-blue eyes scanned with the instinct of someone who always assumed danger. Her M4 felt like part of her arm after a decade of use. She'd zeroed it countless times, knew its rhythm at every range, and trusted it more than most people. 6 magazines sat across her vest, plus 1 loaded. 210 rounds total. Her Beretta sidearm held 2 extra mags. She carried 3 frags, 1 smoke, 2 flashbangs, a combat knife, first aid kit, and water. No radio, she'd left it on purpose. If command couldn't reach her, they couldn't call her back. The compound holding Riley fit the classic narco fortress design. Tall concrete walls painted jungle green, reinforced steel gate, guard towers on corners, a flat roof sandbagged for defense. The cartel had built the place as a regional headquarters, a fortress meant to hold ground against rivals or government forces. Ava had been observing from a concealed position 500 meters out for nearly an hour, counting bodies, watching routines, mapping movement in her head while swatting away mosquitoes. 14 cartel soldiers were in sight. 4 crude guard towers ringed the compound, 2 flanking the main gate. 8 fighters moving within the walls, all carrying AK-47s or AR-15s, professional rifles well kept. These weren't street thugs but trained enforcers, cartel veterans with military tradecraft, maybe ex-special forces who'd sold their skills for cash. They moved with tactical discipline, kept weapons under control, and covered sectors properly. Objectively, the tactical picture was awful. One lone soldier against 14 trained fighters in daylight in their backyard with no support. Doctrine called that suicide. Standard procedure said to regroup with the team, coordinate with command, plan a proper rescue with enough force, use intelligence, bring air support, and go in with the team. But Riley didn't have time for procedures. Ava had met Riley Grant 8 years earlier on their first deployment to Afghanistan. Riley was from Texas, loud, gregarious, the kind who made friends quickly, while Ava was quieter, private, the opposite temperament. Unlikely friends, but they'd stuck together. They'd bonded over shared hardship, midnight guard shifts where they traded family stories and hopes, long patrols where the only relief was each other, the particular trust that develops when someone's life literally depends on you. Riley had pulled Ava from a burning vehicle after an IED 3 years prior, legs bleeding with shrapnel, dragging her 50 meters to cover under fire, and refusing to leave even as ammo detonated nearby. Ava had later carried Riley 2 kilometers to medevac after Riley was hit by AK rounds during a Taliban ambush. A fireman's carry through exhaustion, refusing help because Ava wouldn't leave Riley's life to anyone else. They'd spent endless hours arguing about life after the service. Riley talked about teaching kids with no chances. Ava dreamed of opening a coffee shop. Ordinary plans that felt absurd in a place where people tried to kill you. Now, Riley sat in that compound, probably questioned, maybe tortured, certainly running out of time. Ava made her decision. She was going in. The approach was the most dangerous part. 500 meters of jungle separated her position from the walls. That stretch offered cover, but the cartel had cleared a 50-meter perimeter to create a kill zone where anyone crossing would be exposed to fire from towers and walls. Those 50 meters were lethal in daylight unless Ava forced the guards to look somewhere else. She studied the compound's northern sector. The cleared ring was uniform on 3 sides, but on the north a stream sliced through the jungle, likely an access for water. The stream carved high banks choked with vegetation and ran to within 30 meters of the north wall before turning east. If she used that approach, the banks would mask her from tower observers. But she needed a distraction to pull the guards' attention elsewhere, something to create a perceived threat. 200 meters west, the jungle climbed to a small hill with decent elevation and sight lines over the western wall and the main gate. If she staged something there first and simulated an attack from the west, guards would orient defenses that way and leave the north less watched. Basic infantry thinking. Fix the enemy's gaze one way, hit them from another. Ava slipped west through the jungle, using every scrap of concealment, staying low where the undergrowth was thick, moving with the quiet confidence of someone who'd practiced this 1,000 times. The jungle was both ally and adversary. It hid her, but made silent travel nearly impossible. Every step demanded calculation. Where to plant a foot to avoid snapping a branch? How to move through hanging vines without setting off a rustle? When to freeze because something might have clocked her? Those tiny choices filled her mind. 20 minutes later, she reached the hill, found a spot behind a fallen trunk with good cover, clear sight lines to the compound, and jungle hiding her rear. She set out smoke and fragmentation grenades, placed them carefully, then rigged a crude timer from 550 cord, a stick, and grenade pins. Simple, ugly, and reliable. When the cord burned through it would pull the pins and the grenades would go. Guards would assume the attack came from the west. She estimated 10 minutes once the diversion detonated. 10 minutes to make the dash to the north stream. Use the distraction, cross the kill zone, breach the north wall, find Riley, and get out before the cartel figured out what really happened. Ava lit the paracord fuse she'd unraveled and oiled for a slow burn, then moved fast back into the green, looping east and then north toward the stream approach. 8 minutes. 7. 6. She hit the stream with 4 minutes to spare, dropped waist-deep into the current that was stronger than she expected, and began slipping downstream toward the compound. The banks rose about 3 feet and were thick with vegetation, perfect concealment from anyone not directly overhead. The water ran brown with sediment, probably filthy, but it cooled her and masked her movement. 3 minutes. 2. Ava reached the point where the stream came closest to the north wall. 30 meters of open ground between bank and concrete. She could see tower sentries scanning in disciplined patterns. Any motion in that gap and she'd be lit up instantly. 1 minute, she took position behind the bank, M4 up and ready, eyes on the compound, waiting. The grenades went off on schedule. First, smoke bloomed into white clouds visible from the walls. Then, 5 seconds later, a fragmentation grenade cracked the jungle. The reaction was immediate. Tower guards shouted and swung weapons toward the west. Gate sentries bolted for the western wall. Inside, she heard boots and shouted orders in Spanish. Ava moved. She exploded from the bank and sprinted across open ground, abandoning stealth for speed. 30 meters had never felt longer, each step expecting gunfire or that shout that means you're seen. 20 meters, 15, 10. She slammed into the north wall, pressed to concrete, lungs burning. No gunfire, no alarms. The diversion had worked. At the base of the north wall, a drainage culvert ran under the perimeter to channel rainy season water. Narrow, maybe 2 feet high, but crawlable. Ava dropped prone and wriggled through. M4 pushed ahead, ignoring the muck that soaked her kit. She popped out inside a slim gap between the wall and a storage building. Sacks that smelled like chemicals were stacked to the ceiling under tarps. The compound was bigger than it had looked. A central courtyard, a 2-story main building on the south with a flat, sandbagged roof, and smaller annexes around the perimeter that looked like barracks or workshops. The 2 gate guards were 50 meters away facing west toward the diversion, rifles up. Ava hugged the wall, used the storage building as cover, and eased to a corner with a view of the main entrance. 3 cartel soldiers stood there, armed and alert, responding to the diversion but trying to keep security. 16 tangos total, the 14 she'd counted plus 2 she hadn't seen. All eyes were turned west, and Riley was somewhere in that main building. Ava had choices. Sneak quietly, find Riley, and try to extract without firing. Smart and slow, but time would kill that plan. Any second, someone would clear the western crater, find nothing but smoke and scourge. And the compound would go to full alert. Her window would snap shut. She needed speed and shock, hit so hard and so fast they couldn't form a coordinated response before she'd finished. Ava pulled a fragmentation grenade, measured the arc to the main entrance, and ran blast radii through her head. 3 guards huddled together, a poor tactical setup that played to her advantage. And 1 grenade would neutralize all 3. Ava yanked the pin, held the spoon for a 2 count to shorten the delay between throw and detonation, then launched it hard and true. The grenade bounced, rolled to a guard's feet, and one of them opened his mouth to shout. The explosion ripped the air, tossing all 3 back as the sharp report bounced off the compound walls. Ava moved without hesitation, sprinting from cover toward the main building and using the shock and confusion as she closed. Every second now mattered, she'd announced herself, and the 2 gate sentries were turning, bringing weapons up while trying to understand what had happened. Ava engaged on the run, controlled pairs from the M4, and both gate guards went down. 5 down, 11 to go. She reached the main entrance, stepping over bodies ejected by the blast, and flowed through the doorway with rifle up and ready. Inside felt cooler. Concrete walls kept out the worst heat, but it was still oppressive. A central hallway ran the building's length with doors along both sides and stairs at the far end. Movement from the right. A guard barreled from a room with an AK-47 raised. Ava fired first, 3 rounds to center mass, and he went down hard. 6 down, 10 to go. "Riley!" Ava shouted as she rushed the hallway, checking corners. "Riley, Grant, it's Ava. Where are you?" No answer. Either Riley couldn't hear her or couldn't answer. Ava forced the thought down. Riley had to be alive. More noise from the stairs. 2 guards pushing down with weapons ready. The stairwell was a deadly funnel. They'd come single file. Ava waited with the M4 trained at the stair base, breath steadied despite the adrenaline. The first guard crested, and she fired a controlled burst center mass. He went forward and tumbled down the remaining steps. The second, more cautious, peered around the landing and sprayed blindly on full auto. Rounds punched into the walls around Ava and kicked up debris at her feet. She answered with walking shots up the wall toward his position to suppress him. Then she ripped out a second fragmentation grenade, judged an arc, and hurled it up the stairwell. The confined blast was deafening. When the smoke cleared, the second stair guard was down. 8 neutralized, 8 to go. Ava bounded upstairs fast, aware time was short and the remaining fighters would be consolidating or calling for help. The second floor mirrored the first. A central corridor, rooms on both sides, and a door at the end leading to the roof. "Riley!" she called again. "If you can hear me, make noise." This time, she got an answer. A rhythmic thump, like someone kicking the wall, coming from the room at the hall's far end. Ava moved toward the sound, checking corners and braced for an ambush. The door was heavy, reinforced with steel, padlocked from the outside. Through it came muffled movement, someone trying to shout through a gag. "Riley, move away from the door," Ava ordered, then stepped back and fired 3 rounds into the padlock until the lock shattered. She kicked the door open and rushed in with the M4 tracking. The room was small and oppressive. Concrete walls, 1 hanging bulb, no windows. Riley sat bound to a metal chair, wrists zip-tied, duct tape over her mouth, face bruised and bloodied, the left eye nearly swollen shut. Blood crusted her forehead, but her eyes found Ava's and lit with recognition and hope. Riley wasn't alone. 2 cartel guards occupied opposite corners, one behind her with a pistol pressed to her head, the other covering the doorway with an AK. For a frozen heartbeat, it was a standoff. Ava's rifle trained on the AK man. The pistol was fixed on Riley's temple. The rifle guard barked in Spanish-accented English. "You put the gun down or we kill your friend. Slowly. Watch." Ava's mind raced through options in an instant. Shoot the rifle guard first, and the pistol man executes Riley before she can shift. Shoot the pistol man first, and the rifle guard slugs her. Try both at once, and it's impossible. This wasn't a solvable textbook scenario unless she changed the variables. "Okay," Ava said, keeping her voice calm and low, M4 leveled but unfired. "Let's talk. You want to trade? Me for her?" The pistol man muttered rapid Spanish. The rifle guard leaned back and told Ava to drop her weapon, kick it toward him. "Then maybe we let your friend live," the rifle guard offered. Maybe wasn't enough. Ava answered, "I need guarantees. You're not in a position to negotiate." She stared them down. "You kill her. I kill both of you before you run. You let her go, I won't hunt you afterward. That's the deal." The guards exchanged uncertain looks. They'd expected a full assault team, not a lone infiltrator bargaining like she had a hand of cards. Ava had been watching the pistol man's trigger finger the whole time, reading the tension for the tell that meant he was about to fire, tracking his eyes for the millisecond his focus split. When that fraction of a second came, the pistol man's attention flicked to his companion and pressure on the trigger eased. Ava moved. She twisted left to drop below the rifleman's line while sweeping the M4 toward the pistol guard in one fluid arc. Her first shot took the pistol man clean in the head, precise and immediate. The rifle guard fired back, but Ava was already moving. Rounds hammered past as she completed the motion, rose into stance, tracked, and punched 2 center mass shots that sent him down. 10 neutralized, 6 remaining. When that split second came, his eyes flicking to his buddy and the pressure of the pistol at Riley Hush's temple, easing by a fraction as the trigger finger relaxed. Ava moved. She twisted left, dropping below the rifleman's line while sweeping the M4 in a smooth arc toward the pistol guard. The motion was so fast and so clean, honed by thousands of hours of training, it looked like sorcery. Her first round hit the pistol guard in the head. No time for center mass, no margin for error. The precise shot ended the immediate threat to Riley. The rifle guard fired, but Ava was already in motion. Rounds missed by inches as she completed the maneuver, came up into a fighting stance, tracked the rifle guard, and fired 2 center mass shots that sent him down. 10 neutralized, 6 left. The whole thing had taken maybe 3 seconds. Riley stared at Ava with eyes blown wide. The dead man, who'd held a pistol to her head, slumped behind her. Ava rushed to Riley, pulled a knife and cut the zip ties, fingers moving fast on raw wrists where plastic had sliced. She peeled duct tape from Riley's mouth as gently as she could. "Oh my God," Riley croaked. "Oh my God, Ava, you came. You actually came." "They said nobody would come," Riley choked. "They said Americans would leave me." "Not on my watch," Ava said. She helped Riley to her feet, noting how Riley favored the left leg, likely hurt in the ambush or during captivity. "Can you walk?" Ava asked. "I think so," Riley breathed. "Mostly face trauma, bruised legs, nothing broken." She tested weight, wobbled, then stayed upright. "There were at least 16, Riley said. "There were 16. "There are 6 now," Ava answered. "Can you handle a rifle?" Riley glanced at the AK lying by a dead guard and nodded through the pain. "Yeah, I can shoot. Good, take it." "We're leaving." Ava handed Riley a spare grenade. "You remember urban combat training? Basics every day, room clearing, bounding overwatch, covering fires." "We fighting out?" Riley rasped. "We're fighting our way out," Ava said. They moved to the doorway, with Ava leading, M4 up, Riley right behind with the captured AK. They fell into the rhythm they'd trained for years. 2 people who knew each other's movements, covering sectors, trading hand signals and tiny shifts in posture. The hallway seemed clear, but Ava heard voices below. The remaining 6 guards were regrouping, organizing a counter, probably fortifying the ground floor to trap them upstairs. "They'll bottle us up," Riley said, thinking through options. Despite injuries, they needed another exit. "Roof access," Riley added. "We go up, not down." They reached the metal door at the hall's end, simple lock. Ava shot the lock off and kicked the door open to a narrow staircase. The roof was flat concrete, ringed with sandbag positions. The cartel had planned it defensively. Guard towers at opposite corners sat empty for now, and from the roof they had sightlines out over the jungle beyond the walls. Options. "What's the plan?" Riley asked, checking the AK. "We hold until they come up, hit them hard when they do, then break for the north wall through the drainage culvert into the jungle." "Terrible plan," Riley said with a bruised smile. "You got a better one?" "Nope. Terrible it is." They didn't have long. Boots pounded the stairs and voices coordinated in Spanish. The remaining 6 were smart enough to come together. Ava pulled her last fragmentation, pin out, spoon held. "When this goes, we move," she said. "You left, me right, clear the roof, then run for the north wall. Don't stop. Don't waste time. Just run." Riley nodded. "On your mark." Ava hurled the grenade down the stairwell, counted 1, 2, and the explosion rocked the building, filling the stairwell with smoke, shrapnel, and screams. "Go! Go! Go!" They flowed through the roof access into chaos. Bodies tumbled on the stairs. At least 3 down from the blast, while 3 others staggered and returned fire. Ava engaged first as they moved with 3-round bursts. Riley took the second with the AK, the unfamiliar recoil punching, but her aim holding by sheer will. The third guard fired wildly from below, panic shooting as both returned controlled fire. 13 down, 3 to go. They hit the ground floor fast. Riley limped but kept pace. The remaining 3 were more elusive, inside or outside, regrouping. Choosing speed over caution, they burst into the courtyard under brutal sun and ran toward the north wall 50 meters away. Gunfire cracked from the right. The last 3 had slunk behind a storage building and set up an ambush. Rounds zipped past Ava's head and kicked dirt at her feet. Riley suppressed from the hip on full auto, forcing the ambushers to duck. Ava tossed her final smoke, a white cloud blooming to obscure sight lines, and they slipped to the drainage culvert at the north wall. Riley went first, dropping to her belly and crawling through despite the pain, and Ava followed, firing controlled bursts back toward the storage building to cover their escape. They squeezed through the culvert into muck and water and came out into the jungle, and behind them the compound fell into chaos. Smoke, gunfire, barking orders, while Ava and Riley ran. They put 300 meters between themselves and the walls before Riley's leg finally gave out. Adrenaline faded, and the injury announced itself. She collapsed against a tree, gasping and pale. "I need a minute," Riley rasped. "Take 2, we're clear," Ava said, and pulled the backup radio she'd stashed before the raid, the one command didn't know about. "Colonel Davis, this is Bravo 24. I have a high value." The call for immediate extraction echoed back. The response was sharp and furious. "Bravo 24, where the hell have you been? We've been trying to raise you for 7 hours. What do you mean you have a high value? I have Sergeant Grant. She's alive, mobile. Request immediate extraction." A long pause, then a different, older voice. "Bravo 24. This is Colonel Davis, actual. Confirm you have Sergeant Grant." "Confirmed. Multiple contusions, possible concussion, leg injury, but ambulatory and stable." Ava could picture the operations center erupting into questions. How one soldier slipped into a cartel stronghold and came out with a hostage alive. "Bravo 24. How did you recover Sergeant Grant?" Ava looked at Riley, who managed a small, painful smile. "I went and got her, sir. She's my friend." "Stand by for extract, ETA 30 minutes, and, Sergeant Monroe, we're going to have a very long conversation when you get back." "Yes, sir." "Looking forward to it," Ava muttered under her breath. A UH-60 Blackhawk threaded the canopy 28 minutes later. Door gunners sweeping the tree line, a full infantry squad riding for security. The extraction was fast and by the book. Riley was loaded first, and a medic began treatment immediately. Ava boarded last, taking one last look at the jungle that had nearly killed them both. She'd acted against every tactical principle, against explicit orders and everything she'd been taught about planning. She'd slipped into a cartel compound alone in daylight and carried Riley home. It was the dumbest thing she'd ever done. and she'd do it again without hesitation. The debrief lasted 8 hours. Ava sat across from Captain Brooks, Colonel Davis, 2 intelligence officers, and a DEA liaison who wanted every detail about the compound. She walked them through it, step by step. Captain Brooks was livid. "Sergeant Monroe, do you realize how reckless that was? You could have been killed. You could have gotten Grant killed. You disobeyed a direct order to remain in position and await the rescue team." "Yes, sir," Ava said. "You engaged 13 cartel fighters alone in enemy territory inside a defended compound." "Yes, sir." Captain Brooks leaned back, studying her. "And you'd do it again, wouldn't you?" Ava met his gaze. "Sergeant Grant is my friend. Best friend for 8 years, 3 deployments together. She saved my life. I've saved hers. Intel said the cartel would execute her within 24 hours. Command said a rescue team in 48. The math didn't work, so I went and got her." Colonel Davis repeated the facts, respect entering his voice despite the reprimand. "Sergeant Monroe, your action was tactically unsound, violated regulations, and showed disregard for the chain of command." "Yes, sir." He opened a file. "It was also one of the most impressive individual combat displays I've seen in 26 years. He tapped the folder. 13 enemy combatants killed. 0 friendly casualties beyond Grant's injuries. Hostage recovered alive. Complete tactical surprise achieved during a daylight incursion into enemy territory." He closed the folder. "How did you do it?" Ava thought a moment. "Training, sir, and being really, really motivated not to fail." Finally, Captain Brooks announced it bluntly. "Sergeant Monroe, you're being recommended for the Silver Star. You're also receiving an Article 15 for disobeying orders. You'll be decorated and disciplined. Does that make sense?" Ava allowed a small smile. "Perfect sense, sir. Worth it." Riley was in the field hospital when Ava was released from debrief. Stitches in her scalp, IVs running, but alert and grinning when Ava walked in. "Hey, crazy person," Riley said. "Heard you're getting metal and Article 15. "That's the rumor," Ava replied. "Also heard you killed 13 guys by yourself." "They were between me and you. That was their mistake," Ava said. Riley's smile dimmed. "Ava, you could have died." "I did what I had to." Riley took Ava's hand. "Thank you doesn't cut it. You saved my life." "You saved mine in Helmand." "That's how this goes, huh?" "For us, yeah." "They were standing between me and you," Ava said simply. "That was their mistake." Riley's smile faded. "Ava, you could have died. What you did, it's exactly what you know I would have done for you." "Yeah," Ava answered softly. Riley reached for her hand. "Thank you doesn't even come close. You saved my life." "You saved mine back in Helmand," Ava said. "I guess I just returned the favor." "That's how this works?" Riley asked. "It is for us." 3 months later, at a ceremony at Valverde Main Base, Ava received the Silver Star. The citation read, "For gallantry in action against an armed enemy during counter-narcotics operations, Staff Sergeant Ava Monroe displayed extraordinary heroism by single-handedly infiltrating a fortified enemy compound, engaging and defeating 13 combatants, and successfully rescuing a captured American soldier." Her actions reflected the highest traditions of military service and brought great credit upon herself, her unit, and the United States Army. Riley was there, fully healed and back on duty. When the medal was pinned to Ava's uniform, Riley was the first to salute. "You earned that," she said afterward. "We both did. We've been earning it for 8 years. "So what now?" Riley asked. "We keep going," Ava said. "Finish this deployment. Watch each other's backs and stay alive long enough to open that coffee shop we keep talking about. Deal, but on one condition. What's that? If I ever get captured again, you wait for the official rescue team. My heart can't handle you going full action hero twice. Ava smiled. No promises. Years later, after both had left the army and opened their little coffee shop, people would notice the silver star on the wall and ask about it. Ava always gave the official version: rescue mission, enemy engagement, hostage recovered. But Riley knew the truth. The real story of a friend who looked at impossible odds. A compound full of armed cartel soldiers, a jungle trying to kill her, and every manual screaming that what she was about to do was suicide, and decided none of that mattered compared to bringing her best friend home. That was the story that counted. Not tactics, not medals, just the simple truth that when it truly mattered, when Riley's life hung on the line and no one else was coming fast enough, Ava walked into hell to bring her back. That's what friends do, what soldiers do, what warriors do when someone they love is in danger. And when the choice is between following orders or doing what's right, Ava chose right. And Riley lived because of it. Have you ever had a friend you'd risk everything for? What would you do if someone you cared about was in danger and no one else was coming to help? Is it better to follow orders or save a friend? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read them all. If this story reminded you that real friendship means showing up when it matters most, that some bonds are worth any risk, and that the greatest acts of courage come from protecting the people we love, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of warriors who prove loyalty is stronger than fear, friendship stronger than orders, and love stronger than any tactical disadvantage. Thanks for watching. Every woman has a story worth telling. Join us on Major Tom's Tales to hear them.